Hello, everyone, and welcome back to MTDCNC North America. Typically, as you guys know, I am standing in front of a machine, either talking about the machine or the coolant or the work holding or the tooling or something about the machine, something in engineering and manufacturing. But what gets overlooked to me a lot of times are these amazing women that are in manufacturing. And I just happen to be at OptiPro here in Ontario, New York, and one of those amazing women is sitting right beside me. Her name is Danielle. I would like her to share a bit of her story and inspiration and advice for other women who are either working in manufacturing right now or would like to consider it a career option. So, Danielle, thank you so much for sharing your story with MTD.
Yeah, thank you, Tony, for having me on. Um, I do have a story in manufacturing. I started out, I guess I'll start back with, I think that my story is unique, and I hope that it becomes less unique in the future. Um, my dad does own this company that I work for. I started in manufacturing, though, about 18, 19 years ago or so, right out of high school. I worked for another company for about 12 years in precision optics manufacturing. Didn't have any prior school. I scooped ice cream and worked at restaurants, which I think is also, a good thing to share because sometimes it's intimidating for some of these technical jobs to get into them. But so much of the learning is on the job. And people do want to share what they know, so it's less intimidating. So I think a couple of the key skills that you can have going into manufacturing are maybe surprising to a lot of people. So organization, communication, having an open mind to share what you know, and then also teamwork. So those are all things that you can learn, that you don't have to be the best at math, you don't have to have knowledge going into a company running machines, but work ethic, showing up on time, and communication are how people progress through the industry. And the technical parts, a lot of it's learned on the job. Lots of good programs out there at the community colleges. It's just not the maybe overwhelming steps that some people think that you have to take to get into this industry.
Yeah, I think that has some wisdom in it as well.
Mhm.
So I know you pretty good at this point and a lot of your story. And you mentioned already that this is your father's company, so
Yes.
you could have chosen another career path, but you decided to choose this. But knowing you, you have mentioned to me before that some of the challenges that other women may face, you were somewhat oblivious to just based on the situation. We know they exist,
Yes.
and we know that there are hurdles or speed bumps and even walls sometimes, right?
Mhm.
But you didn't have to go through that.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I think we talked about ignorance is bliss sometimes. And, I don't ever want to downplay the hurdles and challenges that, women truly have out there, but I do want to kind of tell a different story, and that is, my dad raised us from a very young age. We were all athletic, we played sports, so there was no hesitation to me when he said, okay, you're either going to school or you're going to go get a job, and here's a place that you're going to go get a job. So I originally didn't work for my father for 12 years in this industry. And, I went into it, I guess, maybe more nervous that I didn't know the industry, but not that I was a female. Because that wasn't even brought up as a kid, as, that's going to be a challenge for you. So I don't think that I thought about that at all, honestly. And I think, I mentioned yesterday that there may have been hurdles that I was jumping and didn't even know it. And I think that communication is key, so if you are a good communicator with the team, they're going to know your value, and it doesn't matter if you're male or female. I've also had some interesting opportunities where females were preferred for a certain job. Different hand dexterities, being able, maybe having smaller hands, using, micro tools. We had a customer, one of the largest prime contractors in the U.S. come in, and, I wasn't really a part of the project, but I was overseeing it, some of the communication back and forth. And, one day they came up and they were like, you guys can't make any more of those parts unless she is the one that is inspecting them. And, they told the story of that, their inspector back at the shop, was a female, and that worked really well for them. So there's tons of opportunities, and certainly that's just an example of one, but I also ran the CNC machines and the conventional machines, programmed them. So, the sky is the limit, and I think if I could give any advice at all, it would be go into it and try to compartmentalize the fears that you might have being a woman, because I think that even if you don't have a ton of confidence, you can put off confidence, if you aren't thinking about the challenges that you're going to have.
I think that's true as well. And I'm going to go off on one small tangent and then one story that I have from a male perspective.
Sure.
Just being in the industry for almost 25 years now.
Yeah.
But also having 5 sisters and 2 daughters and being surrounded by women my whole life. So having an appreciation that you can do anything you want, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like while there is always that 1% thing that comes up and they go, well, they can't grow wings and fly, you know what I mean?
Right.
There's always that person that wants to prove a point.
Yeah.
But for the most part, as a general rule, when we believe in something, we can create it, right? So I want to go back to the thing that you said about eyes and being able to say, if she's not inspecting it, then nobody's expecting. So there's a show I've seen called Brain Games. And on Brain Games, just where men and women have come from, women have typically better eyesight based on looking for a healthy or a poisonous, unripe berry, and just having to focus on that so fully that they showed 6 different colors of red, where the average woman can easily see 6, the average man sees 2.
Yeah.
So there's your inspection thing right there.
Right.
Now, on top of that, some of the most successful salespeople in our industry are women. And I see it all the time. And that could be for multitudes of reasons, but there's no reason, in my opinion, why, coming from a male side of things, why a woman wouldn't give it a chance, unless it's just fear of being surrounded by so many men all the time. But if we can start to equalize this, it's certainly not an educational thing. It's certainly not an intelligence thing. It's none of that. You are far smarter than I am, far wiser than I am.
I don't know about that.
And I think the respect is there. We just need to generate this inspiration to the women out there who think that trades are still based on sex.
Yeah. Yep. And I think, too, we're talking about women here, but in general, we need to get the message out that manufacturing is not a dirty job. We've done lots of filming here the last couple days, and you can see that it's not, there's not grease dripping from the ceilings. There's not floors that, you would be scared to walk on. There's definitely a stigma out there that manufacturing is dirty, and it's not.
Yeah, your colleague Sandy even made me eat my sandwich off the floor yesterday. That's how clean it was.
That's how we teach people here.
That's how we learn.
Yeah.
But you're right, and that as a general rule is for everyone to understand. I think is, because there has been a great skills gap, and the skills gap needs to get filled. And something that I preach about on a pedestal, whether I deserve that pedestal or not, on a regular basis is everyone, folks, people. There's a skills gap, and one of the greatest things about that skills gap is most of us don't have to worry for a job.
Right.
How many other industries do you go home going, I wonder if I'm going to get cut this week or fired this week or whatever it might be? We don't really have that because there's such a desire for a qualified machinist or a programmer, right?
Yep.
And not just that, but what I also think is super interesting about manufacturing and engineering in general is trade schools have some of the quickest ROIs of any investment of education. And once you invest in that and you decide to come into our world, as you touched on earlier, it can be sales. It can be programming. It can be some other form of technical side of things. It can be applications.
Yep.
It can be electronics. How many broad spectrums of things can we do within this one industry with a massive skills gap?
Right. And you can also have a multitude of jobs within your career. So you could start off in one and then realize that, hey, I like, some other areas in the company and I want to try that. And so there's so much. And you mentioned the trade schools, and, locally we have Monroe Community College, and the leader of that is a woman, Alexis Vogt. She runs the optics program.
Shout out to Alexis.
I am name dropping here. He might be coming to see you next. And, it's so true. I mean, the students that are graduating, they have jobs before they graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes it even tougher for all the companies because, they, there's not a pool of students graduating to choose from. They're already scooped up before they even graduate. So
That testimonial echoes and resonates at almost every tech school I go to.
Yeah.
They have jobs before they
Yeah.
graduate.
yeah.
So good job, Alexis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I value your wisdom, and I'm sure you hear it a lot, but let me say it personally and also from MTD. Thank you for being a woman in manufacturing. And I'm going to blindside you with a question, but you probably know the answer because you're smart and you've already kind of touched on it. To the women out there, what advice would you give to just jump in the deep end of the pool and give it a try?
It would be exactly that. Jump in, and even if you have concerns or fears, just pretend they're not there. Compartmentalize it, put it away, and think about it at the end of the day if you need to. But don't while you're on the job and going in for interviews, because there are plenty of opportunities out there, and you can do it.
100% agree, and I just want to add, if there's anything that I or MTD can do for any of you women out there who are looking to get connected within the industry, by all means, reach out. Obviously, Danielle's amazing. We're doing this for a purpose. We want this to have meaning to a lot of people out there. Our global audience has millions of followers around the world, so by all means, I'm easy to find, and we want to have more conversations like this.
Yeah, happy to talk to anybody that's thinking about getting in the industry, too.
OptiPro Systems, Ontario, New York. If you live around the area or just want to move to the area, there's probably some openings. Danielle is amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a part of MTD and sharing your story.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.